One of those
personal agendas that you're supposed to have.
Okay, the public meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education, Wednesday, September 16th, will now come to order. Mr. Thorney, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Let's move the screen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know.
Gonna put a picture up.
Mr. Gorski, would you take the roll call, please?
Certainly. Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
Mr. Braverman?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Here.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz?
Here.
Mr. Nostine?
Here.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso?
Yes.
Mr. Ryback?
Here.
Mr. Zarneski?
Here.
Board President, you have a quorum present this evening. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted September 11th, 2015 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. Mr. Thorney, our student rep of the senior class, right?
Yes.
Okay, would you give us your report, please?
Thank you. The 2015-2016 school year has started for all schools in the district as of September 3rd. Also, various clubs and extracurricular organizations are looking to start early at the high school, and the high school will be conducting its second annual Club Rush event this September, which will allow students to become familiar with the extracurricular organizations that the high school has to offer. Additionally, the schools within the district will be holding back-to-school nights for parents during the month of September. Applegarth will start the band and chorus zero periods on September 22nd. Brookside will start for zero periods, Applegarth will start the 21st, Brookside the 22nd, and Woodland will be starting the zero periods for band and chorus as well. Oak Tree and Applegarth PTA will be participating in the Township Green Fair on Saturday, October 3rd at Oak Tree from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is a township event and the community is welcome to attend. Finally, there will be a 4-hour session on September 22nd and schools will be off on the 23rd, the dates of Yom Kippur. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thorney. Okay, we will now move on to the approval of minutes. We will have to do these individually in case you need to recuse or abstain. I move that.
Public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Overlook the first public forum. Okay, this is the opportunity for members of the public to ask questions or make statements regarding the agenda only. So if anyone has any statement or question that they would like to make at this time, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and if you have any group affiliation, also include that. All statements should be kept to a maximum of 3 minutes, and they should be directed to the president of the board. Do we have anyone that cares to make a statement at this time?
Can I ask a question first? Is the going to be discussed tonight on the policy about the transgender bathrooms? Is that on the agenda tonight?
That is on the policy.
It's under policy, so, okay, I'd like to make a statement on it if I could. My name is Richard Gibbons, 415 Schoolhouse Road. I think you're going in the wrong direction. I think as a society, I don't know where we're going with this, but for years, boys and girls' bathrooms have worked. And to accommodate somebody in this particular situation, to me, is ludicrous. And also, the fact that a board member cannot discuss this, apparently from what I'm hearing, without the threat of a civil suit or the board being sued on this, is absolutely ridiculous. I think that if you look around, as a board, just look at society in general. If you don't see what's going on in society, I think you guys have blinders on. I just think that this this accommodation policy is absolutely ridiculous. You just see it all over the place. That you're trying to. Where the point also is, where does it end? Where does this type of policy end? You know, you're accommodating a transgender now, and again, where do you stop it? And that's basically all I have to say. I just would like you to consider that.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments or questions regarding the agenda?
Hi, my name is Richard Gibbons, and I'm going to be actually running for the Board of Education this year, 415 Schoolhouse Road as well. Same name. Basically, I have the same thing to say on the transgender bathroom policy and also the locker room thing. Kind of just to back up what my dad said earlier, I really don't agree with it. I think it's something that, it's a direction the board should not be going in. I mean, look at California now and their college entrance, college application. There's 6 different gender choices. I mean, it's just getting out of hand as to all the stuff that we're trying to accommodate. I mean, at some point, you just have to say female, male bathrooms. I mean, they were created for a reason. They weren't created because of what the person looked like on the outside. I mean, it's for a reason, and to me, it's just not the time to be considering this. I mean, right now, we're taking 1-2% of the population and letting that represent too much. So that's basically all I want to say on that.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
Dawn Corino, 13 Fox Hunt Drive. I really don't have any comments written down or anything, but I just want to say that I do have a daughter in the school system, and I'm very upset about this policy that you guys are looking like you're going to pass. I want to know what's going to happen to the 99.9% of the other children who are now going to be extremely uncomfortable going into the bathroom, knowing that there's going to be an anatomical male next to them, potentially, or the opposite also. And I did call Governor Christie's office today to find out where in this new law does it say that if we do not let a transgender pick whichever bathroom they want, how are we violating that law? They didn't know how to answer that, so they sent it up to the Department of Education. They did not know how to answer that, so they sent it to the Law of Public Safety. They did not know how to answer that, so it was sent up to the Attorney General, and I haven't heard back yet. So as far as I know, we are not violating anything, no discrimination by not allowing someone to choose whichever bathroom they want to go to. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Okay, then I will close the first public session. Keep in mind that there is a second public forum close to the end of the meeting, and at that time you can ask any questions or make any comments regarding anything at all that you care to bring up. At this time, we're going to have a very brief but special presentation by our Director of Transportation. Oh, you want me to do that first? Okay, Mr. Gorski says he wants me to get the minutes approved first, so we'll take care of that. So Mr. Gillen, just relax there a couple more minutes. All right, we'll have to do these individually. I move that we accept the minutes of the Public Board of Education meeting on June 17th.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recuse? Abstain? All right, I move that we approve the minutes of the closed session meeting of June 17th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recuse?
I'll recuse. I don't remember what it was about, but I'll recuse.
Abstain? All right, I move that we accept the minutes of the special Public Board of Education meeting on June 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? And recuse?
Recuse.
Okay, so we've got 2 recusals.
So moved. Thanks.
I move that we accept the minutes of the closed session meeting of June 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recuse?
Recuse.
And abstentions? None. Okay, I move that we accept the minutes of the special Public Board of Education meeting of June 29th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Recusals?
Recuse.
Abstain.
An abstention? Okay, abstention and 2 recusals. And I move that we accept the minutes of the closed session meeting of June 29th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recuse?
Recuse.
And abstain? Looks like 2 abstentions. That's all of them, right? Okay, so now we will go to a special presentation by our Director of Transportation, Mr. Gillen.
Good evening. I attended the Building Grounds and Transportation Committee meeting on September 8th, and I have compiled some data for the committee regarding number of routes and late arrivals to school. Okay, on the screen, you're seeing a bar graph of the week 1 routes. In blue is the number of routes for the week, and in orange is the routes that were late. We had 168 high school routes, 11 of which were late. We had 152 middle school routes, 42 of which were late. We had 40 Woodland routes, 16 were late. We had 82 Mill Lake routes, 22 were late. 96 Barclay Brook Brookside routes with 7 late. 94 Applegarth Oak Tree routes with 16 late, for a total of 632 in-district routes and 114 were late. Some of the reasons that the routes were late were contractors did not know the area as well as we expected them to. They're supposed to do dry runs. In the afternoon and the morning, delays either dropping off at the schools or boarding, because when they boarded in the afternoon, they did child for child. We had 300 new students. Falcon Care created some issues of being late, as well as some confusion of students. We had a typical first day, pictures and students not wanting to get on buses. And so that always takes a little bit longer. Redistricting was an issue with some confusion of people trying to get on the buses from the previous year. So we had students getting on the wrong buses on last year routes. And we also had an issue with some of the special education late IEP requests and changes. So that was for week 1. For week 2, it was actually for 4 days, only 2 in week 1. The high school had 336 routes, only 2 were late. The middle school had 304 routes, 30 of which were late. 28 of those late routes were between the 8:05 bus drop-off and the 8:10 homeroom bell. Woodland had 80 routes with 5 late. Mill Lake had 164 with 20 late. Barkley Brook had 192 with 2 late. Applegarth, 188 with 3 late. That's Oak Tree as well. For a total of 1,264 in-district routes and 62 of which were late. To correct the issue, we spoke extensively with the contractors and what our expectations are, making sure that they gave drivers the new bus routes, any changes of stops. They seem to not give the student lists, so we had to make sure that that was done. We had to split a couple of routes to make them shorter. We offered drivers for the contractors to either ride along or come in the office. We would show them. We typed up directions that said, stop at your 7th Street, which is 7th Street. Go 2 blocks, make a left on Avenue G, etc. Rather than just hand them our typical Versatrans directions. We found one of the issues was down in Alcolt. I guess they're missing a lot of street signs. Mike Gorski spoke with the contractors and told them we would be holding payment because they were not giving the service that they promised. It's also, yes.
Yes. On that note, it was Dr. Kozak and my feeling that the taxpayers did not get what they contracted for with the contracted bus routes from at least 2 vendors this year. These 2 contracted vendors picked up a lot of the new students simply because the district is at capacity for adding buses. Our service bays can't accommodate anymore. We have no place to park them and have the block heater accessories. And so we contracted the routes out. Doug, his requirements for contracted routes are the same for in-district routes. We require a CDL license. We require a dry run, which means that the drivers perform the route with no students to make sure that they can do it in the time allotted, that the drug testing and all of our district policies and regulations are followed. And the taxpayers did not get what they contracted for this first week. And we are going to hold the contractors accountable to the fullest extent of the penalties available within the contract. Furthermore, we may look at different contractors for next year, but the district is in a legal difficult position not to take the lowest contracting bidder on these bus routes. And also to break contract is extremely difficult. It's a legal process. It's beyond our control. So we try to motivate the contractor to perform by all means necessary, and Doug did a nice job at that.
Thank you. In the past, we had a contractor, Phoenix, who did a lot of in-district work and renewed the routes year after year. This year, Phoenix is doing no work in Middlesex County, with the exception of East Brunswick. So we had 2 contractors sending drivers in who don't know Monroe. Having been a driver here in 06, 07, it takes a while to get used to the fact that you have streets that you drive down, and then you make a right, and it's the same street. You have Spotswood, Gravel Hill, Spotswood. It gets kind of confusing. None of that is an excuse for them not going out and doing their routes. We offered to, like I said, have drivers show them their routes. In fact, next year they will be required to come to the office, sign in, and have a board employee go out with them to show them the route and make sure they have it down, so we won't have this issue of them the first day of school not being able to find streets. We did have 1 driver and her son in the office doing a dry route, and first day of school she was actually terminated because she just messed up so bad. 90% of the issues this year are due by the contractors. It's just been a little, it's been a strange year with the redistricting and stuff. Since then, drivers have received additional training from their companies. It's been added time learning the routes, been given explicit directions, which I've already said, and that some routes are split. We're going to look into, like Mr. Gorski said, stiffer penalties for next year. Our in-house fleet is performing satisfactorily. But like Mr. Gorski said, we don't have the capacity to expand our fleet at this time, so I won't go back into that. Another issue that we had this year was Immaculate Conception School. The bus companies from last year did not renew the routes and did not receive any bids. I went through incredible effort to obtain busing for Immaculate. On August 5th, I met with the principal, Gloria Martin, the secretary, Joyce Costello, and Kim Chorba from the New Jersey Network of Catholic Schools. At that meeting, we discussed different ways to get busing for Immaculate, and it was decided that the routes would need to be shortened and stops consolidated. Joyce Costello went over to students and picked most of the stops for these routes. I worked with 2 commissions, contacted bus companies, put together packages to get someone to bid on these routes, and had no bids on these routes been accepted, parents would have been forced to transport their students to school, and the parents that were beyond 2 miles from school would have been paid aid in lieu, which is currently $884 for the year per pupil, and parents that are less than remote or the 2.0 miles would not receive any payment. That's pretty much what I have. The growth has been a big issue with 300 new students this year. We've had to last minute adjust a lot of the bus routes with moving stops, just so that not add bus routes, but move stops between buses, which has added to some confusion, but that's what we've done. Any questions?
Question?
Yes, Mr. Mayo?
How did we go from 600 routes week 1 to 1,200 routes in week 2?
Because week 1 was Thursday and Friday, and week 2 was 4 days.
Oh, so
this-
okay.
Anyone else with questions? Mr. Braverman?
Now, how many contracted bus routes do we have?
There are 75
75 contractors, outside contractors?
contracted routes. We only have.
I'm sorry?
That's the number of routes. We have, First Student is the biggest contractor in the district right now, and so is Dorm. And then we have some other contractors that do the special needs.
But how many do we have doing the routes in the morning?
I don't,
Outsiders?
by route or the number of contractors, I'm sorry.
Routes.
By routes, there's a total of 35 routes, and most of them are tiered 3 routes to a package.
I hope I'm not getting confused. You call our drivers contract drivers, do you?
No, sir.
No, okay.
No, sir.
So you're talking about 35 outside buses doing routes?
It actually works out to probably 12 because they do 3 routes. They do a high school, a middle school, and an elementary.
And out of that number, how many were late and you were disappointed in?
I'd have to say probably 70% of them. Probably closer to 80%.
And you just said a few minutes ago, which I thought was very interesting, you had to take the lowest bid. And we both know that it's the lowest responsible bidder. And if these people were late and they prove they're not responsible, why don't we correct it now and not wait till next year when we write new rules?
Mr. Boy?
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's the lowest responsible bidder. And First Student in particular is a contractor who had most of the issues this year. And Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had decent service from them before that would not have led us to anticipate that we would have such a collapse in the number of routes that we experienced.
That's correct.
And Mr. Braverman, even going forward next year, if First Student was the low bidder again and we were completely dissatisfied with their service this year, it's still a legal process to exclude them as the low bidder and go with the second lowest bidder. And it requires more than just bad experience with them from this year, which we experience.
I'm sure that's true, and I know you have to have a hearing, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, at the last committee meeting that I was at, they said we had a number of spare buses. Why aren't we looking for drivers and using our own buses?
That number of spares included buses and a great number of vans.
It was
that
a
couldn't-
total of 14. It wasn't broken down.
Yeah, it was buses and vans that simply could not accommodate the number of students that we have contracted right now. And a lot of those vehicles have been taken out of service and are not reliable enough for three tiering of systems that we have.
Mr. Ryback?
Just to follow up about what Mr. Braverman brought up, is it possible that one company may not want to take over a contract, even if we were able to offer it to them because of the fact that they're already working, or maybe they just don't want to come into somebody else's territory, so to speak, or be competitive with another company?
The whole process is designed around competition, so that you define the route, and various bus companies, which is usually several who commit to these bids, sharpen their pencils and give us the lowest rate to provide this service. And they have to comply with all the district policies, regulations. We require cameras on the buses, a whole great extent of requirements that we put on our own vehicles. That would be collusion if that ever happened, and I'm not aware of that ever happening before, where some just don't participate. I will tell you that with the non-public routes, which is the private school transportation that we're required to provide, the contractors' bids came in just above the aid in lieu amount per pupil. In other words, requiring the district then to pay aid in lieu to the parents of the non-public students, and with no transportation service, as opposed to contracting out and paying a bus service where the per pupil cost comes under the $884. This was a widespread problem throughout the county that I'm hearing from all of my colleagues in the business administrative fields. And I don't know if there's really an appreciation for what Doug did with Dr. Kozak and my recommendations to work with two commissions and to revise the routes to lower the cost to make it under the $884. So that the parents of Immaculate, which is about 70-something, actually were provided transportation as opposed to being told last minute, the contractors didn't bid, and here's a check for $884, fend for yourself.
Mr. Nolstein?
Obviously, this was a big problem, especially for a certain amount of people that were affected by it. It wasn't a problem for the routes that were on time. I had received a lot of phone calls, with what's going on and everything, and basically I told people that they needed to call Dr. Kozak, but more importantly, I'm a little concerned, why wasn't this on the agenda as an item tonight? Because I would have loved to had the public see this so that they come in and have their concerns assuaged by this presentation. I'm just kind of, because unless I don't have the current agenda, maybe it was added and I missed it, but I think this is something that the public really, really needed to see, because that's where the problem was. It's one thing if you have problems, but we want to address those problems and make sure that the public knows that we are. So I don't know what happened, why it's not on the agenda, but that's a little bit of a concern for me why it wasn't on the agenda.
Mr. Boyd? Yeah. To answer your question, sir, the reason it wasn't on the agenda is because Mr. Gillen presented to the Building Grounds Transportation Committee about the hardships in the most expeditious fashion to inform the committee, who is really responsible for the oversight of transportation, about the hardships that we were having and the corrective measures that we were taking. So as a continuance of that report, it was thought to do it during committee reports. We could have done it with the board president's buy-in as a separate agenda item, but that's why it was done as a committee report.
Anyone else? Okay, I just have one question for you, Mr. Gillen. I noticed in both the first week and the second week that the high school and Barclay Brookside, they had the least number of lates and I found that interesting. And they had extremely low number of lates compared to all the other schools. Do you have any explanation for that?
Well, for the high school, it's the first tier. So the buses come in, they do the route, they drop off, and they leave. So that's the biggest part of the reason why they don't have it. And in the afternoon, they're the first tier in the afternoon as well. So the buses come in, they load up at the high school gets them out, and then they go to the next one. One of the things about Barclay Brook and Brookside is the time. They're 10 minutes they're 10 minutes later than Mill Lake, and that extra 10 minutes helps.
I see. Do we have any contracted routes going to Barclay Brook, Brookside?
We do.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else with questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Gillen, for your report. Are there other committee reports tonight? Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, we had a curriculum committee meeting this evening. We went over a few items, NGSS update and a summer mapping program. We went over some work that had been done over the summer with a wide variety of pictures and graphics, talking about some of the science programs and some of the changes that the district is going to be going through over the next 3 to 5 years. Fairly good material, and I'd ask that we can get the information published on the website for those who'd like to get a little bit more in-depth information. We also reviewed curriculum documents for laboratory chemistry, grade K language arts and literature, grade 1 language arts and literature, grade 2 language arts and literature, grade 9 through 12 French 2, grade 11 through 12 Italian for honors, as well as an industrial arts and transportation technology update. In addition, the board is going to be hearing more as we move forward with respect to a program that we're looking to launch this year, which is a science Olympiad. And maybe perhaps in the next board meeting or two, Ms. Alvik, if you can give us a presentation for all the board members. I think it's very interesting to see the direction that we're looking to take with respect to providing another venue for expression and desires in the science, technology, and math areas. Again, this is stuff that kids that may not be part of TAG will be able to take advantage of as another outlet to compete with other schools and provide a really good environment to look at some of the more comprehensive technologies that are out in the world today. So more to come on Science Olympiad. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Do we have any other committee reports? Mrs. Kolopanovich?
You may have.
Okay, I have 2 reports this evening. The first is on buildings, grounds, and transportation, and this might be a little redundant to Mr. Gillian's report, but I'm going to read it anyway because I think it's important. We went through 2 issues. The first one was the transportation issue. The committee discussed the busing challenges that the district encountered during the first 2 days of school due to a perfect storm of issues that included, but are not limited to, the new transportation routes, the redistricting of the community, the opening of the Falcon Care, special requests from parents, new students that continue to arrive in the district on a daily basis. And every time a new student comes, we have to find a spot on a bus, so we might have to change routes right in the middle of the week. All of the in-district Monroe buses, or the majority of them, performed extremely well, and the issues seem to be from, as we heard, the contracted buses, mostly in the northern part of the district. Steps have been taken to deal with it and put some new responsibilities in place so that this situation does not occur again. Those steps include tracking our buses at all schools, using GPS trackers on all buses, having cameras on all buses, and accountability of bus drivers on their dry runs, revisiting our policies in regard to transportation, withholding payments to contracted buses, and more training for drivers. 90% of our bus routes are in-house, and 10% are contracted, and we would love to have all 100% in-house, but we can't due to a lack of where we're going to put our buses and how we're going to maintain them. So we apologize for any inconvenience that was caused, and I know that the administration has handled many texts and emails and phone calls over the last 2 weeks. So after the bus discussion, we had a tour of the stopgap construction project that was done at the Monroe Township Middle School over the summer, and we got an opportunity to see all the new classrooms in the renovated areas. The contractors have completed 95% of the work, and a temporary certificate of occupancy was received so that we can utilize these classrooms on the first day of school. Work continued the past 2 days to install technology equipment and windows which were back ordered. A punch list is being prepared and will be addressed in the coming weeks. And I think we're now utilizing every space we can at the middle school except for maybe the principal's office, and she would like to keep it. I'd also like to commend Mr. Jerry Tager, Director of Facilities, and the middle school custodial staff for the excellent job they did in making sure that all this work was done over the summer, those 2 months of summer vacation, so that the classrooms were ready for the students in September. And walking around the schools, I did notice that there were a lot of class sizes in the 30s already over there at the middle school. So I think that's something we need to be aware of. Then I have that concludes buildings and grounds, and I have a transportation meeting update, and this might be a little lengthy. No, did I say transportation? It's a finance. Transportation's over. So it might be a little lengthy, so please bear with me. The first item the committee discussed was adding a link from the school district website to the METS culinary management website. METS is our food service provider. For $165 a year, we can utilize their website to professionally customize a web page for our district. That website would include the monthly menus for all the schools, allergy information, nutritional information, catering, our district nutrition policies, and anything else that the Board of Education or the administration feels should go on that site. This way, everybody will be able to find all the food service information in one convenient place. And currently, all the information can be found on our website, but it's scattered, so it's not packaged very well. So the committee agreed with that recommendation. Then we had an audit update. The audit is 75% complete, with the general fund portion just finished. So far, everything is looking good, and the auditor has indicated that our district audit will be into the county offices on time. Then the audit update led to a discussion on a 2014-2015 capital reserve transfer. And Mr. Gorski, if I don't get this right, I'm sure you'll let me know and correct it, because there's a lot of numbers. The audit showed an excess surplus in the 2014-2015 operating budget of $2,193,237 to be used in the 2016-2017 budget. It was recommended to the committee that we restore the capital reserve account with $975,000 of that excess surplus money, which then can be used to fund any capital project in our 5-year facilities plan, or it could go towards a bond referendum pre-installment plan. The main factors that led to this surplus was a direct claims-based insurance that was switched to a prospective plan, the elimination of the A4 surcharge for retirees' health care, the 14-15 reduction in negotiated rates, a purchase order freeze, and receiving the full state aid award. And that doesn't mean that we're receiving our fair share, it just means what the state said that they would give us that year, they gave us. The committee agreed with that recommendation to put the $975,000 in the capital reserve account. It was then recommended that half of the remaining surplus, which is half of that is $609,118.50, go towards meeting the appropriation needs of the district, and the other half, which again would be $609,118.50, go towards a reduction in the tax levy. which would bring the budget for the 2016-2017 year below cap. While the board voted at the budget philosophy special meeting in August to go to cap, it was done before these numbers were certified by the auditor. So now it would bring the projected 3% growth in cap to approximately 2%. The excess surplus money shows that we are conservatively structuring a budget and aggressively managing it during the year to make sure that our district does what it can to save every nickel to return back to the taxpayers. So we need to thank Mr. Gorski and the business department for watching all of our pennies. And again, the committee agreed to this recommendation. And Mike, do you have anything to add to that piece?
Thanks. Just to reiterate some of the numbers that Mrs. Koloponowicz stated, the tentative figure for excess surplus for the year ended June 30th, 2015 is just over $6 million, exceeding the prior year amount by $2 million. The reason for the growth in excess surplus was no longer do we have to fund a termination reserve on a balance sheet account where we were putting $900,000 for when we left the claims-based health insurance method. We also negotiated hard with Horizon, and we eliminated the A4 surcharge, saving $350,000. Also in 14-15, we reduced the preliminary rates that were proposed by Horizon by $970,678. After staff contributions, our health insurance account only grew 2.9%, which is remarkably low. The superintendent and I executed a purchase order freeze after January, because by then any essential orders are executed and any remaining monies were deemed not emergent purchases, and they were frozen. And as Mrs. Koloponowicz said, if we were ever to prepare a budget where revenues were tightly matched to appropriations for the next year, we could be in a very precarious situation, because more than once the state has not paid us the full state aid award. In recent memory, there was a $1.8 million freeze in state aid funding that if we did not have the flexibility in accounts to manage, we would be probably instituting a RIF of teachers mid-year and an elimination of programs and services. So when you have the unreliability of state aid funds, even after they're awarded to you at budget time, it pays to have a little bit of flexibility within the budget. But I want to make it clear that the budget did not have more appropriations than deemed prudent. It was really unanticipated and very effective management of the budget that led to the growth of the surplus. And most noteworthy, with the $2 million of extra surplus, $975,000 is going to restore the capital reserve account that was established by the board several years ago for expenditures in the 5-year facilities plan. And the remaining surplus of $1.2 million is going to be split about $600,000 to meet new appropriation needs due to growth in the district, and the other $600,000 to actually go below cap for the first time in a few years. And that's a remarkable feat that we're projecting to be able to do to accommodate $7 million of new appropriation costs, mainly surrounded by stemming from the growth, and to restore the capital reserve account, which, as Mrs. Koloponowicz said, could be used as part of bond referendum funds. For example, if you had a $41 million bond referendum and you had $1 million in capital reserve, you'd only have to bond for $40 million then. Or you could fund the projects in your capital reserve account, which include boilers, windows, roofs, HVAC systems, and parking lots, and main big projects like that. And to be able to go under cap is quite remarkable, and that's due to the board's oversight of the budget through the administration in place.
And I need to continue. After the discussion of the reserves and the extra money, we had a thorough review of the new Falcon Care program by Sharon Jensen, who is the director of the program, who shared with the committee the Falcon Care business plan. The goals of the Falcon Care program are to provide quality care for after-school hours where children and students can engage in lessons and activities to extend their learning experiences, to provide parents with affordable before and after-school care for their children in a safe and productive environment, and to create additional revenue for use within the school district. Every elementary school will now be a Falcon Care site with a site coordinator and at least one group leader and one assistant group leader at each school. Currently, we have 431 students registered in Falcon Care and 113 students participating in the Early Childhood Education Program. And I'd just like to thank Sharon Jensen for the very comprehensive and enlightening plan that she shared with the committee. And lastly, I know that Mr. Gorski has added a budget link to the district website, and I suggested, for the sake of transparency and in support of our new communications goal, that it might be a good idea to add a portal to that budget link so that the community, members of our community, will have the chance to go on that link and ask any questions they have regarding the budget or the finances. And those questions can be easily answered by the business department or the finance committee, and then everybody is going to be getting the same information at the same time. And with a potential referendum down the road, we hope that we don't go through there's a pool in the new high school that we did with a past referendum that we know it's on the website, and we can refer everybody to the website. So that will be going up. And at this point, the meeting was concluded, and we have no further data as of right now. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Kolopanovich. Point of clarification, Mr. Gorski. In terms of state aid, we do not get all the aid at a given time, do we? How does that occur?
The state aid is paid over a 12-month period on installments. And as I mentioned before, with state revenue shortfalls, in recent years, the state notified districts midpoint through the year and said they're unable to make any remaining payments through the rest of the year. In our case, that was about $1.8 million. That was very difficult to adjust the budget and make it through the year when the rug's pulled out of you financially speaking, and you don't have the revenues that you've designed a budget around, and you have programs and teachers and services in place, and now you don't have the funding source to meet it. And not only that, but as you may know, the last two payments of state aid have been perpetually deferred. So we're always playing catch up for those two payments, and that's due to a state budgeting tactic.
So do these come in monthly, quarterly?
They come in monthly. The check
they come in monthly.
The check comes once a month. It's actually a wire transfer.
But the state could notify us at any time that you're not going to get the next 3 months because we don't have any more money?
That's exactly correct. We have about a $4 million state aid award, and it's unreliable.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry?
You want to discuss anything else, or I had a question?
Related to the finance report? Yes, go ahead.
Great. So yeah, during the finance committee, I had no problem with the fact that we're going to bring money back and put it into the operating fund. But what I did have a little challenge with, and I'm still wrestling with, is the fact that we're going to be looking to return about $600,000 back off of the budget in favor of tax relief. And my challenge is because, as we discussed in the meeting, it takes about $1.2 million-ish to represent a penny to the average consumer with respect to what they can see as far as their return. And my challenge is, $1.2 million is a lot of things, and what the average consumer gets back is, and I understand how we want to watch our pennies, nickels, and dimes, but my challenge is this. This is a roll of candy. It cost me $1.06. The amount of money that the average taxpayer will receive with respect to tax relief by lowering our budget by $600,000. The tax person in our town won't be able to buy this roll of candy until the year 2215. It'll take them 200 years to buy this roll of candy with the amount of money that we're rolling back off the budget. And given the fact that the state isn't really good at giving us money, given the fact that we have some busing issues that $600,000 may not solve, but it could certainly help, I personally think $600,000 will go a longer way by addressing needs of the district than my ability to buy this roll of candy in 2,215. That's all.
Okay, do we have Mr. Nostine?
In line with what Mr. Kaufman is stating, Mr. Gorski, do you feel that we are sacrificing the needs of the district? I can't believe that we would be doing that under your stewardship, but please elaborate.
Yes.
Yes. Never would Dr. Kozak or I or Dr. Alvik shortchange the needs of the district through the budget process and put our names on the budget. After the board philosophy meeting, where we identified to the Board of Education about $7 million of new appropriation needs for next year, and by going to cap new revenue sources of about $3 million, leaving a shortfall of about $4 million, there was a lengthy discussion about taxes. And we are very sensitive to the fact that 85 cents of every dollar raised for education in Monroe comes from the local taxpayers. It's extraordinarily burdensome. And the board members who stated that concern about taxes properly spoke for the residents of the town who are bearing that burden and feeling that pain. Dr. Kozak and I met, and when we confirmed this surplus number, which we knew was going to be good, but would have been premature to discuss at the budget philosophy meeting back in August, when that number came in so handsome, generating the fruit of a lot of the savings initiative that we achieved during the year, we actually thought that we could satisfy both sides. We could meet the new appropriation needs. We could restore the capital reserve account and be responsible to our facilities, which are in need of address in just about any facility that you look at, even this one. Our high school is over capacity, and the voters built this school on an installment plan at capacity, knowing that it was going to need an addition in the near future, and the footing's already set up for that. So by restoring $975,000 into the capital reserve and splitting the $1.2 million remaining excess, $600,000 for new appropriation needs and $600,000 to go under the cap and not use any bank cap is remarkable, and we feel confident that we could satisfy all the needs of students through a very rigorous budget process by only approving budgetary appropriations that are in accordance with board goals and district goals, and showing the taxpayers that we are responsive and we hear them, and we want to lower their burden as best we can. And we were able to do that this year through very handsome savings, again, through the budget year.
Okay, are there other committee reports? Mr. Ryback?
I hate to change this interesting topic, but it's one thing I could talk about is Personnel Committee. Our head of security, Mr. Piero, came before the committee and made his case for creating a cadre of trained substitutes. The importance here is the training that these subs will be getting, because what we're dealing with really is ensuring the safety of our students and staff. So the committee was absolutely in favor of that. Thank you. Said it'd be short.
Mr. Prezioso?
I'm Vice Chair of the Policy Committee, and September 10th we reviewed 6 different policies. There were some minor changes in wording, but the majority of the policies we went over to discuss a recommendation to include cultural arts and the Mighty Oaks as a Class 1 user. And I guess when I'm finished, Mike, you could explain that. And the committee was in favor of these changes. We also changed a few wordings in the outside activities. Another policy was staff members' use of cellular telephones. That was also changed. Administration of medication by parent to a student, screening for dyslexia, and changes to the transgender student policy. But, Michael, if you could explain how the $30,000 a year in award was waived for the $300,000?
The topic begins with the Monroe Township tennis courts, which are located on Schoolhouse Road. There's two sets of tennis courts there. The initial one was constructed in 1978. The other one was built in the early 90s with referendum money. And both sets of tennis courts need desperate resurfacing. Every year, the district and the taxpayers spend $15,000 for repairing cracks because of water runoff and problems with the aged facilities. To restore the tennis courts by going down to the sub-base and a new surface and new grading and fencing, we have an appraisal for $300,000. Now, the district had applied for a ROD grant previously. That's where the state reimburses regular operating districts up to 40% of these expenditures. Even though they said turf fields and tennis courts and things like that were excluded, we craftily designed the application saying that our phys ed team uses it, and it's really part of the curriculum, and therefore it is an approvable cost, but it was denied. We've had several other unsuccessful attempts to get the tennis court restorations in the budget as a capital outlay project. So in the past, I reached out to the municipality, Mr. Wayne Hamilton, and I asked, being that it's mainly community use of those courts and to a lesser extent student use, would the township be willing to contribute some money toward the restoration? And we never received a favorable response. Recently, I reached out a second time and I asked for cooperation again, and we were much more successful this time, where the township said that there was some open space money that could be available. And in fact, through extensive negotiations, they said they would pick up the full cost of the tennis courts up to $300,000 if the district would, in the spirit of collaboration, consider reclassifying the Mayor's Cultural Arts Commission and the Mighty Oaks players from the use of building tiering from Tier 2 to a Tier 1 user. A Tier 1 user is a student group-oriented user who is exempt from use of building fees. And the township's position is that many Monroe students participate in the arts performances through the cultural arts and attend the shows of the Mighty Oaks players, and therefore there really is a great student involvement and participation in those events. Therefore they should be a Tier 1 user. So it was recommended to the policy committee to make the change, reclassifying the Mighty Oaks and the Cultural Arts Commission to a Tier 1 user in a collaborative spirit of working with the township, and in the bigger picture of understanding the interconnectivity of the township and the school district, especially with some of our plans for a bond referendum and township contribution of land perhaps in that endeavor. So it's always been a wonderful exchange with the township, a very collaborative relationship, and that was the recommendation.
Thank you.
Oh, and one final thing, the annual fees that are currently collected from the cultural arts and the Mighty Oaks players is about $30,000 annually. So the district would forego that $30,000 perpetually going forward because they would be reclassified in exchange for a $300,000 immediate restoration of the tennis courts. A shared service agreement is being put together by council.
Ms. Arminio?
Yeah, my question is, will that $300,000 come in a one lump sum to do the restoration, or will that be over time?
My understanding is it's going to be a lump sum up front, and it would pay for nearly all of the restoration. We have to update the estimate The last one we had was 305,000, but nearly all, if not all, of the restoration will be paid for by the township up front.
And the Mighty Oaks players and the commission, the Arts Commission, is that $30,000 each that would be foregoing, or just $30,000 a year with the both of them?
It's $30,000 total from the both of them annually in use of building fees.
And when we were collecting those fees at $30,000, was that a wash? We did not make any money from that. Is that correct?
That is indeed correct. That $30,000 is not profit to the district. It is intentionally designed simply to reimburse us our costs for hosting those events.
So the cost then now, in terms of salaries and use of the facilities, will be absorbed by the school district?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I also, I just want to, as a point of clarification, did I also understand you to say, Mr. Gorski, that we're spending approximately $15,000 a year on the maintenance of those facilities?
Yes, sir. Because of the cracks and the way the tennis courts are prone to cracking, we're chasing cracks annually to the extent of $15,000 per year.
Sounds like a lot of money to fill cracks.
It is.
Okay. Okay, are there any other committee reports?
I just like to say one thing on some of the policies that come before the committee. Or the district subscribes to a policy service that sends policy updates to the school district based on recent legislative action and court cases. The purpose of the school district policy is to provide guidelines on how to adopt the procedures based on these legal statutes. So the board does, the committee doesn't put these policies together. We're reviewing them from the policy service that we subscribe to. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's it.
That concludes. Thank you, Mr. Prezioso. Anyone else? Mrs. Arminio?
I want to thank Mr. Prezioso for chairing that committee meeting I wasn't able to attend, but also the review of policies. Some are mandated, just to reiterate, I know we've said this in the past, some are mandated by law and regulation, and some are, and we can always review policies. When we put a policy together and it doesn't maybe function well, or the actuality of putting of procedures don't work, then we could always review them again. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the most part.
And in that particular policy, that is a revision of an existing policy. That policy was already adopted, to my knowledge, last year by the district, and this was a revision. And the policies are in place really to protect the district and the students, and to provide procedures and regulations on how to enforce, certain things that come down. There are, when a law is passed, we have to follow the law. Personal beliefs aside, we have to follow the law and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to protect all the students and to protect the district as well.
And also, it seems to me that it gives everyone sort of a standard or a baseline from which to behave and to understand. And again, moving forward, we could always review things if we find in actuality they don't work.
Absolutely.
Okay, at this time, we will turn to the superintendent's report and recommendations. Dr. Kozak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I have some good news to share with everyone. And Mr. Godel, thank you to Mr. Godel, our high school principal, who sent this to me last night. And I looked at this and I wanted to share this with the board and with the public. It seems that there is an organization out there called Niche, maybe? It's N-I-C-H-E. I'm not familiar with this particular organization, but they rate school districts not only in New Jersey, but across the country. And is that for me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just going to read a little bit based on the criteria that this company uses. They explore the best school districts to teach. They explore the best school districts to teach based on teacher salary, experience, and attendance, as well as the district's academic safety and resources grade. A high ranking indicates that the district contains great schools with exceptional teachers who are offered excellent support and compensation. And our district was rated, and I didn't write the number, I believe it was 44 out of, we have about 600 districts in the state. And there's also a national ranking. And they use, the criteria that I just stated is what they use to rank all the districts. But they also, if you go to the link, they have they have comments that people from this community have written. And I took time, there's probably a couple hundred comments, but I read through probably at least about 100 of them. And these are comments by parents, by students, some students who have recently graduated, and they comment on what they like about the school, about their teachers, and it was really heartwarming to see the comments, especially, I think for me, mostly it was the students, reading what students actually wrote about how their teachers were supportive of them, how they helped them to move on to college, to prepare them. There was some, some usual high school type comments, I think there might have been something about a lunchtime being longer or, something like that. But overall, the comments were very positive, and again, from the community and from the students. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Part of what Niche looks at is the teachers work in a safe, well-resourced schools and are compensated appropriately for the work. The district is invested in its teachers and provides a good environment for teaching and learning, and that teachers are invested in the district and the students, the district and the students, and work to ensure the best outcomes for students. So kudos to the wonderful staff that we have in the district, the administrative, the leadership team, and everyone here. And certainly, I was not a part of this, so I'm not going to even try to take any credit. I would love to, but I'm not. And certainly my two esteemed colleagues, both to my right and to my left here, Mr. Gorski and Dr. Alvich, who have done just a wonderful job. And again, to everyone out in the district. So I just wanted to share that good news. I think we need to celebrate our successes, and I think that's certainly a success.
Are you going to be focused on? I should raise my hand.
Mr. President.
Or are you going to be putting that information up on the website? Because I think it's important for everybody to know.
Yes, I will, now. Thank you for that great suggestion. Yeah, I will put a link up and a little of the criteria there. Absolutely, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. I'm going to hand this action plan out to the board. And we have on our agenda tonight the district goals, which the board worked with the New Jersey School Boards Association in creating not only our district goals, but also our board goals. And what I'm handing out tonight is just an action plan that I worked on to state how these goals will be implemented. So I'm not going to go through each section of it, but I am handing it out for your purview and for you to look at these goals and the action plan, and perhaps bring any feedback. We can certainly do it through the Personnel Committee, or the board as a whole. You could certainly send it back to me. But I wanted to just address the three goals and basically state how we were how we were going to carry out these goals. And if I could, Mr. President, I'll just read the three goals.
Go ahead.
Okay. Goal number one is to develop and present a plan to the Board of Education for its approval that will address enrollment growth and facility needs, and to begin implementation of the board-approved plan. And that's basically, as I think the community knows and the board certainly knows, that our student enrollment is certainly growing every year, and we're certainly we want to address that, how our schools may be becoming overcrowded, our classrooms, and this is going to be something that will involve the community. As I stated, I've been at some of the back-to-school nights, and I've talked to some of the parents, and I know Mr. Poy, our president, has certainly stated, the creation of an ad hoc committee. But these are the community schools, the parent schools, the community. And it's going to be very, very important for us that everyone in the community, or at least each section of the community, has a voice in how we address this growing student enrollment. This is, it's very important in that the schools are a reflection of the community, and that the community has a voice in, how they're structured and how we address this growing student enrollment. So you're going to be getting more information about that. There will be meetings set up, probably monthly meetings, and I strongly encourage people to get involved and to make a commitment to come out and really invest. There will be some time. I mean, there's going to be some time that you're going to be required to put in, but to invest your time and energy into helping us address this growing student enrollment. And along with that, that kind of leads into the second goal, and that is the expansion of two-way communication with all stakeholders in the Monroe community, including but not limited to the utilization of constant contact, social media, and in-person meetings. And basically, the goal is for us to exchange information about the wonderful things that are going on in this district every single day. Every single day. And I think our esteemed student board representative, certainly the reports that you provide to the board and to the community certainly speak to that. But it's important that we get out this information. Sometimes it's like teaching is on an island, and there's these great things occurring in the classroom. We want to get this information out to the community, and we also want to provide a vehicle for the community to give us information. It's a two-way street. It's a collaborative process. It's not simply us giving you information. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear your concerns. We want to hear what the community thinks about the schools and how we're doing. And certainly we want to hear what the students think as well. So we're looking to just up that type of communication, the use of Twitter and Facebook. Certainly there's ways that you can get the Twitter messages just by a text. You don't have to be a member of Twitter or belong to Twitter. And Facebook, it gives us opportunity to get pictures and things that are going on in the school or schools. And we want to use those type of resources. And the in-person meetings, all the technology and social media and all those type of things can't really replace the face-to-face meetings. So to that end, I've been going to the back-to-school nights. I intend to go to all the back-to-school nights and talk to parents, meet parents. We want to have meetings, meet and greet type of events where I'll invite parents and community members to either come into one of our schools for a meeting, or perhaps I will go out to a community center, the town library, whatever the venue would be. But we certainly want to open that communication up to the township. And our third goal is to complete an external audit of the special education program from K to 12 to ensure, actually it's pre-K to 12, I guess, to ensure continued delivery of the highest quality services to meet the needs of our children in the most cost-effective and efficient manner possible. Our special needs students, we certainly want to provide the very best services, and we want to provide consistent services across the board. And this in no way is any reflection of the delivery of services that we now offer, but this audit could provide a better understanding and a quantitative look, and as well as a qualitative look at how we provide services to our special needs population, and to ensure that we're providing the best services by looking at models not only throughout New Jersey, but throughout the country. There's a lot of good programs, and it's really important that we take time to really investigate and research some of these programs out there. So this will be a process where a request for proposals, an RFP, if you will be put out by Mr. Gorski, and we would accept bids from different contractors. And we would review the bids, and we would present them to the Board of Education for possible approval. There's no guarantee. And if it would fit the needs of this district, and if it would fit the needs of our children, and if it would bring a better delivery of services, if we can improve our services, or if we can do it in a more cost-efficient manner without sacrificing any benefit to the children of the district. So that's the proposal. For the goal is to explore that option to see if we can better the program to that end. And I already mentioned expanded communication. I know parents have already received a newsletter that from what we're calling a district newsletter, Falcon Flyer, and we're certainly hoping to expand that outreach to our non-parents. So for any non-parents, community members who have not received this, please, I encourage you to visit our website, and it's a very easy process to click and you link and you give us your email address and now text. I did ask that we could expand it to text because a lot of people rely on their phone. And please enter your email address and phone number if you desire to receive text so that we can provide not only our district newsletter, but ongoing type of communication. I hope to really increase that to make it really on an ongoing basis. And that concludes my superintendent report, which would lead into personnel, Mr. President.
Okay, I'd just like to clarify one thing. In terms of signing up for Dr. Kozak's newsletter, that's a one-time operation. Once you sign up, you're good to go.
Yes.
You'll receive any newsletters automatically coming into your email. So you don't have to go to the district website each time and search for it. Once you've signed up, given it your email address, then you will get the newsletters automatically sent to your email address or to your phone.
Yes, now it'll be text as well, because we want it to be user-friendly, whatever people's preference is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, I am recommending to the Board of Education items under personnel, items A through V for approval, and I would like to bring note that we sent out our agenda a week before. We try to send it out the week before so that you can review the agenda. However, we did have an opportunity today to meet with a high school physics teacher. And she came in and did an interview and a demo lesson. High marks across the board. I met with her and I was very, very impressed. Due to the fact that we need a physics teacher and we want to provide the services to our students and the school year has already started, I talked to our president, Mr. Poy, and I talked to our chairperson of the Personnel Committee, Mr. Ryback, and I asked respectively if we could place this item on the agenda without having gone to the Personnel Committee, just so that we could get this teacher on board and bring the teacher into the district. So that is an item that was not on your agenda when you received it, I guess, last Friday. Oh, the item number?
It's on the top of page 9.
Thank you, Dr. Hyde.
Number 30, under
Board action or wait until a vote on
T. Under T, number 30.
Okay. Okay. So I already announced A through V, so.
I'm gonna go 28.
Have to get a motion to get.
Okay.
No, I don't have to update it.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendations reflected in items A through V. Okay. Are there any questions? That's items A through V under personnel. Okay, seeing no questions, Mr. Gorski, roll call, please.
Thank you. Personnel items A through V. Ms. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Braverman.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Nostine.
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Poy.
Yes,
Mr. Board President, personnel items A through V moves.
thank you. All right, we will now move on to board action under the superintendent's recommendations.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that the board consider approval or approving items A through O under board action.
So moved.
Do we have any questions or comments? Board action items A through O. All right, seeing no questions, Mr. Gorski, roll call, please.
Ms. Arminio.
Yes on everything except policy 7510.
And your vote on 7510?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Braverman?
Yes on everything except policy 5756, policy 7510.
Where you're voting no, sir, correct?
Those are no's.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes to all, no on policy 5756.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Kolpanowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Nostine?
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso?
Yes on everything, but on policy I-5756, no.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through O passes.
Dr. Kozak, can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Policy 2622, can you just explain what we talked about? Student assessment policy,
Oh, okay.
just for the public so they know that.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to actually pull open the policy, just make sure I grab all of the parts to that.
Why don't you just give a high overview?
Okay, just about student assessment. I mean, is there a specific area that you want me to? Okay, okay, the sheet is not really part of that policy, but I'd be happy to talk about that.
Yes.
Okay,
because
all
it's
right.
related to the policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, related to the policy. So the policy that you're referring to is student assessment, and the conversation that we had was in regard to our state assessment, the park assessment. And the park assessment is a state assessment that all schools in New Jersey administer the assessment. I know it's been a very controversial assessment, and it's raised a lot of concerns throughout not only Monroe Township, or not only throughout Monroe Township, but also communities throughout the state and in other states. What Mr. Mayor was referring to, what we talked about, is in other districts, one that I worked in previously along with other districts in that county, the superintendents basically got together and said, you know, how do we address parents' concerns in a respectful manner for parents who decide that they do not want their child participating in the state assessment in park? And we relied on the state for guidance, and I don't know if the state quite anticipated the backlash that occurred. And but we wanted to be respectful to the parents who decided that they didn't want their children participating. I know there's a lot of concern. I will state that as an educator, that we certainly look at all kinds of data to see how not only our students are performing, but how we are doing as an educator in the delivery of instruction. Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And I didn't want to get into the concerns and the fears that some of the parents have brought up as far as how the data is used. They could be legitimate. You know, I'm really not qualified. I don't know if any of us are to really state how that is going. I can only state how, as an educator, we use student data. We use park testing, or, well, if we get it, when we get it, just like New Jersey asked state testing data, as one data point. It certainly doesn't reflect the whole child. And our goal is to look at multiple data points to see, is a child learning? And we try to look at that on an individual basis as much as possible, so that we're looking to say, is this student who was here, we want to make sure that this student should be, our expectations is to progress from, let's say, point A to point, N. And if we can go to point Q, that's great. Or if we see that we're making point N on a consistent basis, maybe we need to up raise the bar a little bit. So that's certainly how we use data as an educator. But not to digress too much, I just wanted to state that we really do rely on data, and standardized data is helpful to us to at least look and say it's the same, and it's an objective data, and there's reliability and validity on each test item. And there are companies that you can use to do that in addition to your assessments that you do in-house. So again, the state assessment is just one data point. But to go back to, I think, the point that you're going to is that if a parent decides that they do not want their child taking an assessment, I think we need to just be respectful of that and see how we can provide, there's space limitations. I can't say that we can, put students in other classrooms, but we're respectful. Maybe they can read a book or do whatever, so that we can be respectful to the parents and the children, and at the same time do what we're required to do, as we're directed by the Department of Education on how we do things. So I hope that addresses that.
Thank you.
And the wording that I gave you was a sample of, I took it off one of the district's websites. A lot of the districts this was in Burlington County, it seems that they've removed the wording, and I think we put it on our website last year when I was working in Burlington County, but I think a lot of the districts are waiting to see how Park's being rolled out this year, and they wanted to just take a step back and say, okay, how are we going to address this? Are there going to be any changes? There have been discussions at the state level that maybe they'll come out with some guidance. We would certainly appreciate that, because as I would tell you, as a superintendent, and I think for all the entire leadership team, we felt very caught in the middle. We really felt caught in the middle. We're trying to do what we're required to do. At the same time, we're trying to be respectful to students and parents.
Thank you.
Sure.
Not to beat the horse, but for TAG, I know that standardized testing could be a component or a data point to determine eligibility. I don't know what percentage it represents with respect to being able to be either in or out of TAG, but my concern is that if it's a key component, 25%, 20%, 10%, right? Mm-hmm. And a parent pulls their child out of standardized testing but still wants them in TAG, that assessment, in effect, regardless, would be incomplete.
Yeah, I would say that, and Dr. Avich, I mean, there's multiple data points, but I would go back, and I think this is an answer that might speak to that. My point I was trying to say, when as educators, we use data, it's helpful for us as educators to look at multiple assessments and data. And I know there's concern about over-testing, and I'm very well aware of that. But we're always looking to improve what we do. So it's important that we have data to determine that. Without getting into whether Park's the right vehicle or not, but we do want to have at least consistent, and we want to be able to have the same data for all the students. Ms. Kaufman, I think that's part of what you're addressing, and specifically for TAG.
Make it complete. If it's not complete, then it's not complete. No credit for participation.
Okay, Mr. Gorski, the Business Administrator's report and recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Foy. Noteworthy in my report this month is the bill list and Secretary's financial and cash report for the months of August, in compliance and up to the date as far as you can go for that statutory requirement. The law is that the board receive timely financial information in the board secretary report, and also to review the bill list no more than 2 months after month end. You could skip 1 month, but you can't go past 2, and we are current and up to date. Number 2 is a recommendation for participation in Eric North, which is a school insurance group fund. As part of that participation, we were awarded a grant called a safety grant for $15,465, which we're going to recommend to replace a conventional initiating device as part of the fire alarm system at Brookside School with analog addressable devices to upgrade and improve the fire alarm system. We also have a transfer of $975,000 into capital reserve, which we talked about before. We have 2 shared service agreements to save costs and keep taxes down. Number 1 is a shared service agreement for for web and TV hosting with the township. And number 2 is a joint transportation agreement with the South Brunswick Board of Education to share transportation costs. And as such, Mr. Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through L be approved by consent roll call.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Gorski, roll call, please.
Ms. Arminio.
Mr. Gorski?
A through L on page 14.
Page 18, up to, okay, yes.
Thank you.
I just didn't want to vote for something I wasn't supposed to be voting.
Thank you. Mr. Braverman.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Nostine.
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through L passes. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, I have a few brief comments, and then if there's any other business that the board wants to bring up, they may do so at that time. Ms. Arminio?
I think I did make a mistake, Mr. Gorski. I'm supposed to be on J. I apologize. That's what I was trying to determine. On page 18 of the revised agenda.
Mr. Board President, point of correction on board action items A through L. Ms. Arminio's vote will be counted as yes, and a recusal on the travel regulation.
J.
J.
Yes.
Thank you. Good catch.
Thank you. I couldn't find it before. Thank you. Actually, thank you, Nancy.
All right, as Mrs. Kolpanowicz announced earlier, I think the custodial staff and our building facilities management people under Jerry Tague did a great job of handling all those renovations that occurred in the middle school over the summer. If you haven't been into the building, then you wouldn't even be aware of what was accomplished in there. But they added quite a few extra classrooms in spaces that were no longer functional because the building was originally designed for high school purposes and those rooms were not suitable for middle school. So they converted those into standard classrooms as well as small group instruction rooms. And that certainly is going to help manage this year the huge number of students that we have in the middle school. But our commendations and thanks to our custodial staff and our building maintenance staff. I'd like to point out to all the board members, in case you didn't see this because I just saw it this afternoon, that Gwen Thornton will no longer be our field rep. We have a new field rep. Her name is Mary Gassman. They have created a new district which includes Monmouth, Middlesex, and I think it's Hudson County. I don't quite get the connection there, but at any rate, we will be serviced by Mary Gassman. So check your email, and it'll give you her email address as well as phone number. Also a reminder, and you can help me out here, Mr. Sarneski, of the county meeting that's coming up over in South Brunswick. What's the date of that?
September 30th.
September 30th. There is a presentation by a member of the Department of Ed, I believe, on the park. And so that would probably be quite beneficial for you to attend. There is no cost. And you can go online and get signed up, I believe.
Sign up through Mr. Gorski.
For that one? I signed up myself directly.
Then they changed it.
Yeah, okay, well,
They changed
yeah,
the way you can do it.
yeah, check it out because it might be worth your while, and you get a free dinner as well that night, okay? All right, and one other thing, Dr. Kozak alluded to it earlier, the steering committee on the building facilities for the future we'll be meeting again tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. I believe we're going to be meeting with the architect just to get some information from him and also to discuss the proposal that we received from Dr. Ivory, who has facilitated this type of projects in many other districts. So we have to look that over and see whether or not it meets with our liking. But that's at 3 tomorrow. And I, once again, please stay tuned to the website, and if you're a parent, then to any kind of phone message that might go out regarding signing up for serving on the committee that will be looking at the capability of our various buildings for future growth, because we will want your participation in that. We will want that from parents, non-parents, members of our retired communities, as well as our staff. So that should begin to start happening, I would anticipate, in October. So please try to keep your eyes and ears open for that. And that concludes my report. Is there any other board business? Mr. Zarneski?
On the state level, again, there's a legislative committee meeting in Trenton on Saturday, September 26th. The members here are all welcome. Public's welcome. You need to sign up on the state website. And today I had a meeting with Assemblyman D'Angelo, which was facilitated by New Jersey School Board Representative Chris Jones, who's one of our legislative contacts. And I was able to bring up our issue here in Monroe about the funding that we don't receive for the adult communities that are in our district. And various talks have gone on in the past that we all know. We've been talking about this for years, and it's still alive. It's just basically on hold. One of the biggest problems is most of our legislators, and including our governor, are out doing other things, campaigning for the upcoming elections. They just got back into session here several weeks ago, and it hasn't been brought up yet. But it is still out there, still floating around, still being talked about. One of the other issues that is facing that is there's other communities that are experiencing the same problems we are, mostly in the shore region, and you're getting those folks on board, and they're getting, well, we are, along with them, are getting battled by your bigger districts, presumably some of your Abbott districts, your Newarks, your Trentons, that feel that there's no reason why they should give up their money they're getting, being overfunded, to give to districts like us who are being underfunded by the state. That was a conversation that went on for quite some time. Also, conversation led into the funding formula, which we've all experienced problems with. Every district has. Again, it revolved around the Abbott districts, and why are they getting hundreds of $1 millions more when they don't even have resources to use this money for? That's basically sitting there. Why aren't we getting it? And there is a exploratory committee trying to be formed to figure out what to do with it. They want to try to work the formula again, but they're having problems doing so. They don't really know how. They want to, but they don't know how. That was discussed for a while. And there was one other point. Oh, the construction issues that we're facing with the growth. It's just not in our community. It's in other communities. I brought up our community because I was there. And I brought to his attention the fact that you have developers coming into certain towns where the developer gives the township themselves money to put in sewer lines. Here's $1 million for this. Here's $1 million for that. Take care of us. Let us get our development in the town. And the one thing that is not representative, or one group that's not representative, is the schools. You're bringing 200 new homes in. You're getting 600 new kids. Where are they going to go? Who's funding that? It's on our backs. And bringing that to his attention, he right away instructed his assistant to look into the laws that govern that. I presented him the fact of knowing that there are laws that stop businesses from giving to school districts. And he was quite intrigued to where he actually instructed his, like I said, his assistant to look into what are these laws that restrict them from giving money back to the community and giving back to the school system. So that's something that I'm hopefully, I'll have a meeting with him in a couple more months to find out where that's going. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarneski. Mr. Ryback?
Mr. Zarneski, if you don't mind, I'd like to just piggyback on what you've said because it's so important. It impacts our schools and taxpayers. Clearly, the elimination of the cap on the growth aid formula is something that we all need to strive for. Mr. Gorski, if I'm not mistaken, about a year or so ago, it cost us $4.7 million or thereabouts that we lost in that situation. And I know we've been trying as a district to eliminate that cap, but we need a lot of support from our residents. As far as towns and looking at developers, it's actually, if I'm not mistaken, illegal for a town to say, well, what's the impact on the schools going to be when a developer presents his impact study to the town for approval. Why would that be illegal is beyond me, but I think that's something that we need to push for as well. There's no reason why a town can't consider the impact on the school system when a development is being proposed. So I think that's something that all of us need to push for. There's no reason why we can't have that kind of involvement or transparency in a proposal. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business for the board? All right, then I will read the closed session resolution. For the information of the public, we anticipate that this will be a very short closed session. We only have to briefly discuss a harassment, intimidation, and bullying report. Some of us may also need a short restroom break. So once we go into closed session, altogether we'll be out for about 10 minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, to discuss the following subject, harassment, intimidation, bullying report. Following the closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Do I hear a...
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we will resume in about 10 minutes from now. Okay, thank you. Well, at least most of the public has faded away.
Oh, that's heat. That's more expensive.
No, not heat, like.
I was getting quite a bit.
Turn the air off and open up the window. That's all you need.
I wonder how much they waste on the AC.
How do you make the air warmer?
I wonder how much they
Plus-
waste on the
You said
AC
it's
on
72,
this.
you said it at
Every
74.
class, it's freezing.
How do you get it to 70?
Yes.
You must
Heat
heat it.
What?
You must heat it. If it's 72
Over
ambient
there is the
degrees,
I had a teacher, Miss Holmes, for personal
busting your
finance and
chops.
maths.
I know you
For
are.
most of the year, she had to wear a winter jacket in class.
our next meeting. So moved.
Oh, that's their direction.
So we're good, right, Rob?
Sorry?
You're gonna give us the new agenda every month?
Come to sit down, I always carry
The board will resume with its public session, and at this time, we will entertain any comments, questions, or concerns from the public in our second public forum. Anyone wishing to make a statement, make a comment, whatever, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Any group affiliation, please remember to keep your remarks to a maximum of 3 minutes, and they should be directed to the president of the board. Thank you.
Hi, Patricia Lang, 74 McFarland Circle, Mom. So my concern is with goal number 3 that you discussed tonight and that had been brought up at the curriculum meeting of last month, and it was mentioned briefly tonight about doing an external audit of special education. I'm speaking to you as a parent of 3 students that were classified and went through Monroe Township. I'm also speaking as a special educator of many years. I am bothered by the fact that our school board, we are so strapped for money, and we would consider spending $20,000 to $30,000 for an external company to come in. And I don't have that paper that was given out, but on page 6 of that paper, there are grammatical and spelling errors. So if this was the company that your previous district spent all that money to do. There should be no errors. In my experience in the past, being part of self-assessment, which was called, where every district had to do a self-assessment. It's part of special education code. You can get the form on the website. I would guarantee you Marietta and the school board has copies of our self-assessments. We should be looking in-house first. We should be talking to our parents and our teachers. Please consider not spending money that we don't have so that you can find out we either need to spend lots more or you're going to cut from our most needed students. Because historically, the first group to always get cut are the special ed kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
You're taller than me. Corey Masters, 9 Michaela Court. I just want to say thank you. Mr. Tate called me about the front of Applegarth, and it's all fixed now. So now I won't have to worry about tripping when I go in, or any of my children. And do you know the, and this is maybe for Dr. Alvarez, the dates for the 6th graders for the park that they're taking it? I didn't see it on the website for the middle school.
We don't have the actual dates for the specific grade levels yet. We just have the window on the revised calendar.
Okay, yeah, that I saw.
It's just a window.
Okay.
There hasn't been, because we haven't gotten specifics yet about how some of the testing pieces will change for this year. We haven't picked specific dates for specific grade levels. We just have the testing window that's there.
Okay. Has the state given you any idea when you'd be getting that information? Or?
There are updates that come out from Park and from the state almost weekly, and we're continuously reading through them and seeing what's going on. There were some changes made. Obviously, we've condensed it now to the 1 testing window rather than the 2 testing windows. They have made some changes to how many sessions for language arts, how many sessions for math, the times in some of those sessions. That's what we've gotten so far, nothing concrete. We're awaiting the results from last year's testing. Hopefully about the same time, we'll probably get that to start looking at that. Once we get the specific dates, then it comes down to the schools looking at their schedule, their technology, and how they can incorporate it in the class, in the schools.
Okay, thanks.
Okay? You're welcome.
Lou Masters, 9 Michaela Court. The money the township is using or is getting for the tennis courts, where did you say that was coming from?
I was informed that it's open space funds.
So the money they usually use to purchase land for open space, they're going to use to fund the tennis court renovation?
I have to admit, I'm not familiar with open space money, as it's not really germane to the school district. But they did check with those in the know on the township level, that might be their attorney, and came back and said it was a permissible use.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody's offering money, the hands out.
I haven't voted for open space since the school was built.
Tom Vandersand, 2 Fernwood Lane. Just regarding the tennis courts, if the board hasn't already, you may want to research a product called Premier. It's a court surfacing product. You leave the existing court in place, this gets placed over it. I've seen it installed, other districts have it. You can probably check it out on the website and see what other districts have it, and maybe get some feedback from them on how they like it or not. The other question is if you could please contact your buildings and grounds and ask them when the last time the 2 turf fields have been groomed. That is maintained. There's a piece of equipment that is used to groom them, fluff up the infill, which is the black beads that are in the turf itself. I would just like to know when that was done last. Thanks.
Sir, if you wouldn't mind, just give me your number and I'll be happy to contact you back with that information.
Sure, my cell number?
Getting a lot of phone calls.
While that's taking place, is there anyone else that cares to make a comment or have a question?
It's called Premier, P-R-E-M-I-E-R. The company has been sold to a name under another name.
Good evening, Ira Tesler, 11 Elliott Drive. Just a comment about the school use policy. Basically, I think that the deal that we're having in the town is benefiting the town and not us. I think what we should do is maybe invest in the tennis courts ourselves and maybe charge a fee to use it, because at best, if we're going to be losing $30,000 a year in revenue, maybe we get a 10-year return on investment, and then my taxes on the school budget are going to fund these projects which collect money for tickets and make a profit. So I don't think it's a good deal for the school district. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, then I will close the second public session. Our next scheduled Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, October the 14th, here at Monroe Township High School at 7 p.m. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If you're interested,
The meeting is adjourned.
please.